Ladies and gentlemen, a couple of days ago, a book was published which goes by the title of Fire and Fury. Its author is Michael Wolff. And since its publication, all we have seen from President Trump is even more fire and fury. Michael Wolff makes a number of claims about things that have happened, about the goings on at the White House. He tells us about how Donald Trump lives his life, and he tells us about certain episodes in the past. The book makes a number of claims, including the fact that the Trump team was apparently shocked and even horrified on the night of the election when they saw the results coming in, suddenly realizing that they had brought this man to the White House. The book also tells us about the family members of Donald Trump. So, for example, it tells us that his wife was in tears of distress and sadness when she found out that she was going to become the First Lady. And then the daughter of Donald Trump, Ivanka, was supposedly hatching a plan to become the first woman president of the US. And also she had apparently been mocking her father's comb-over hairstyle and telling her friends about how exactly he achieves this comb-over effect with his blonde locks. The book also includes a number of doubts over Trump's health record and his lifestyle. And I was on the train today, and I was flicking through the news, and as always, nowadays it seems there's always a story about Trump. And the story I came across was that today, supposedly, Donald Trump is going to see the doctor. He has to have a checkup in order to look at his health as president. And so he's going to be seeing a doctor at the Walter Reed Medical Center. With this doctor, Donald Trump could no doubt share some good news about maybe how the US economy is going, and he may try to also convince the doctor that there's good news in terms of his health. So, for example, he could tell the doctor that he doesn't drink alcohol, and he never has, as he always claims, and this is supposedly because his older brother Fred died at the age of 43, and Fred was an alcoholic. Trump could also tell the doctor that he doesn't smoke. We could look back to 2015 when Trump said to the cameras that he finds smoking horrible. So that's the good news, and I'm sorry for Mr. Trump. I'm sorry to say that the good news seems to stop there, really. There is a fair bit of bad news, or a few admissions that Mr. Trump will have to make to his doctor. So, for example, a recent book, not the same book as I mentioned before, not Fire and Fury, a different book, revealed that Mr. Trump had 4 major food groups during his election campaign. These food groups were McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, pizza, and Diet Coke. According to this book, which was written by the former campaign manager of Trump, dinner would often consist of 3 hamburgers and a milkshake. So if you count that up, that is roughly 2,430 calories for just one meal. The recommended daily intake of calories for a man is 2,500. So Trump consumes all of the calories that he should for a whole day in one single meal. And I'm not sure he gets a lot of nutrition out of that meal either. In addition, Mr. Trump seems not to believe in exercise. Well, he does play golf, right? But actually golf isn't exactly the most strenuous sport. And when he does play golf, he goes around in a golf buggy. He doesn't go to the effort of actually striding across the golf course. And on this topic of exercise, Donald Trump apparently believes that the human body is like a battery that you might use in a digital camera. So a AA battery that has a certain amount of energy in it, and when that energy is depleted, there is nothing left. And so he believes that with this finite amount of energy, humans should not exercise too much because they're going to run out of energy. Now, of course, that flies in the face of all logic and all of what we're told by science, really. Exercise is good for you. It's not as if by going on a jog, you're going to use up the energy you have for your lifetime. That's ridiculous. So Donald Trump is, at the moment, 71 years old. So his doctor might have to admit that he might have to say, sorry, Mr. President, but you're not exactly a spring chicken. You're getting on in your years. And then the doctor might look at the body mass index of Donald Trump and find out that it's 29.5, which means that Trump is classed as overweight. So though that news is maybe not good news, but for a 71-year-old with such a poor diet and a very meager exercise regime, the president seems to be in relatively good health, actually. I found out that 2 months before he was elected, he released his medical records. This happened in September 2016. And at that time, Trump's total cholesterol was 169. Anything under 200 is actually considered desirable. So he's doing well on that front. And then Mr. Trump's blood pressure was in the ideal range at that time. His liver was normal. His thyroid was found to be normal. And the latest colonoscopy that he had undergone revealed no problems. So that's good news. His doctor wrote, in summary, Mr. Trump is in excellent physical health. And I seem to remember roughly at that time there was a quote from his doctor saying that this is the healthiest candidacy, this is the healthiest presidential candidate that the US has ever had, or something along those lines. Don't quote me on that. I remember that, but I didn't find the quote. So I thought that this is very interesting that the doctor says this, and also interesting to see that some of the indicators for Trump's health are not too bad. So I looked further into the issue, and I found that a doctor from London had written up a report on the issue. She had looked at Donald Trump's lifestyle and health and drawn a few conclusions. In her view, Mr. Trump is taking a chance. She says his diet is awful. She pointed out that not only is he eating food which is high in fat and high in salt, but he's also less likely to eat fruit and vegetables because he's consuming so much other food. If he's only eating burgers and Kentucky Fried Chicken, then when is he going to even get a chance to get some fruit and veg into his diet? A diet low in fruit and veg and high in saturated fat is likely to contribute to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and all other conditions and illnesses. We all know this. This doctor from London also says that it is indeed true that Mr. Trump benefits from not smoking and not drinking, but exercise is vital. Of course, alcohol and cigarettes are a main contributor to many of the ailments that people have nowadays, many of the cancers that people suffer from. But physical activity poses almost as much of a risk for heart disease as smoking does. And this is something that nowadays many people overlook. Physically inactive people are actually twice as likely to develop heart disease compared to those who regularly exercise. Now, maybe there was some truth in what Trump said about a human being having a finite amount of energy and being like a battery that runs down. Because if you do exercise excessively, then that will increase the wear and tear in your joints, And extreme exercising is never good for anyone. But it's like everything in life, you need moderation. If you do regular 30-minute exercise 5 days a week, then you will probably be in good shape. And it seems that Donald Trump isn't carrying out an exercise regime of that type. So really, looking after your health is a little bit like interpreting, I guess. You can't just focus on one part of it. You can't just concentrate on one aspect. You need to have a holistic approach. You have to address in interpreting, you have to work on all of your different skills. That's what we're doing here today. And you cannot say, oh, well, I'm very good at this part of my interpreting, so I don't need to do the rest of it. That's what Trump does, and please, let's not follow Donald Trump's example here. Trump claims he doesn't need to exercise, but let's see what that means for him in the future. So I've been telling you about Donald Trump's physical health, and the fact that this has been called into question by this book, Fire and Fury. I wish I had more time to tell you about Donald Trump's mental health. That would be much more interesting as a speech. Unfortunately, I don't have time to do that here today, so we'll just have to take a quote from the man himself. Donald Trump claims that in terms of mental health, he is a very stable genius. Thank you.